Take a look at this wicking bed. The reservoir underneath is completely full. There is water sitting right there below the soil, but the plants on top are wilting, the leaves are going crispy, and the seedlings are dying of thirst. How is that even possible? Here is the part nobody tells you. Water can only climb so far up through the soil, about 30 centimeters, and not much more. So if you built your bed deeper than that, your roots are bone dry while gallons of water sit useless below. Let me show you the 10-second test to check your bed. I want you to do something with me right now. Walk out to your wicking bed, the one with the full reservoir, and push your fingers down into the soil about 10 centimeters. Go on, get your hands dirty with me. If that soil down there is dry, even though the tank below is brimming, you've just found your problem. Your bed isn't wicking. The water is trapped at the bottom and it never reaches your roots. This is the mistake I see more than any other, and it's so sneaky because everything looks fine from the outside. The reservoir reads full. You're topping it up as the instructions said, but up where the lettuce roots and the basil and the little seedlings actually live, the soil is dust dry. And here's the cruel part. Your plants look thirsty, so what do most of us do? We water more. We fill that reservoir again, and the bed just sits there, soaked at the bottom, parched at the top, while everything slowly dies. I've watched a whole tray of seedlings go down this way, and it's heartbreaking when you realize the water was right there the entire time. So why does this happen? To fix it, you have to understand one beautiful little piece of science, and I promise, it's really very simple. Take a paper towel and dip just the corner into a glass of water. Watch what happens. The water climbs up the towel, all on its own, against gravity. Nobody is pushing it. That is capillary action, and it is the entire engine that makes a wicking bed work. Here is why it happens. Water molecules are sticky. They cling to the sides of whatever they are touching, that is called adhesion, and they cling to each other, that is cohesion. Inside your soil, between every little particle, there are tiny gaps, like a maze of microscopic straws. The water grabs the walls of those gaps and pulls itself upward, dragging more water along behind it. That is how the moisture in your reservoir is supposed to travel up into the root zone. No pump, no electricity, just physics doing the work for you. I just love this part. It is gardening and science holding hands. And here is a neat little detail. The finer the soil, the smaller those straws. And the smaller straws actually pull water higher, but they pull it more slowly. Coarse, sandy soil wicks fast, but not very high. So texture matters a lot, and we will come back to that. But here is the catch, and this is the whole video. Those little straws can only lift water so far before gravity wins. In a nice friable garden mix, water tops out at around 30 centimeters of climb. The wicking bed experts who have measured this, in the lab and out in real beds, all land in the same neighborhood. One manufacturer measured about 35 centimeters in a loose mix. Permaculture educators and sustainable gardening groups say the same thing. Water will not wick higher than about 30 centimeters through soil. That is your ceiling, and it is not really negotiable. So now think about what happens if you got excited and built a deep, generous bed with, say, 50 or 60 centimeters of soil sitting on top of the reservoir. The water climbs to its 30 centimeters, runs out of lifting power, and just stops. Everything above that line stays dry. And guess where your shallow-rooted seedlings are sitting? Right up at the top, in the driest part of the whole bed. There is a glasshouse trial from the University of South Australia that nailed this down. They compared beds with 300 millimeters of soil against beds with 600 millimeters. The shallower beds, the 300 millimeter ones, actually outperformed the deep ones. The deep beds simply could not lift water to the root zone. So, more soil did not mean more growth. It meant thirstier plants. Therefore, the rule that matters most is this: keep your soil at or under that wicking limit, around 300 millimeters, and never build it taller just because you have the timber to do it. Now, while we are being honest with each other, I want to clear up a number you have probably seen plastered all over the internet. Wicking beds save 90% of your water. You will find it in garden magazines, on websites, in the comments under every wicking bed video out there. And I have to tell you that the figure does not hold up. Here is what the actual evidence says. The solid, repeatable number from peer-reviewed and extension sources is around 50% water savings compared to a normal bed. That is still fantastic. Cut your watering in half. The highest believable figure, around 80%, came from a single field trial run by an ecologist at an eco-garden in Sydney back in 2018. But the man who ran it said it himself, plainly. It was not a scientifically controlled trial, and they may have been overwatering the conventional bed they compared it against. So that 80% is a best case, not a promise. And the 90%? Researchers at the University of South Australia went looking for the source of that claim, and they found it only in what they call grey literature, garden blogs and marketing, with no proper study behind it. So treat 90% as advertising. The honest, achievable win is roughly half your water, and you only get that if you build the bed right. Speaking of which, let us go through exactly where these beds go wrong. You already know the biggest mistake: soil built too deep. So let me show you the second one, because it is just as common, and it hides right at the very bottom of the bed. It is the stuff you fill the reservoir with. A lot of older guides told people to fill the reservoir with scoria or gravel, those chunky 20-millimeter rocks. And it makes sense at first. Big rocks, big air gaps, lots of room to store water. But here is the problem. Those gaps are way too big for capillary action to grab onto. Remember our microscopic straws? Coarse gravel is like trying to wick water up a drain pipe. It just cannot do it. An honors research project in Australia tested this beautifully. They measured the wicking power of different materials, and crusher dust came out on top, followed by sand, then fine perlite. Gravel and scoria came dead last. In fact, the researcher found that in a 300-millimeter reservoir packed with gravel, the water in the bottom half never moved at all. It just sat there, dead weight, doing nothing for the plants above. So if you want a bed that actually lifts water, skip the big rocks. Use a fine wicking media instead. Crusher dust, coarse sand, or fine perlite. It holds a touch less water than gravel does, but it actually delivers that water upward, and lifting it is the whole point. The third mistake floods more beds than I can count, and it's the overflow. Your reservoir needs an overflow outlet right at the top of the water zone, so when it fills up, the extra water has somewhere to escape. Forget it, and the water just keeps rising, drowning the roots and turning your lovely soil into a swamp. And this is where I have to be honest about a bed I have watched go badly wrong. Picture a setup with no overflow and no air gap, with organic matter sitting right down in the waterlogged zone. Within a few weeks, the whole thing went anaerobic. That means no oxygen, and the bacteria that thrive down there give off hydrogen sulfide. So when you dig in, it hits you with that rotten egg stink. The plants up top were stunted and dying, and fixing it meant scooping out buckets of black, foul-smelling sludge. What a stink, and what a mess. All of it, every bit, traceable back to a missing overflow and water with nowhere to go. A few smaller mistakes like to ride along with these big ones. Sharp stones or stakes can puncture your waterproof liner, and water will find any hole you give it, so always test for leaks before you trust it. Get your separation fabric wrong, and either the wicking stops or the soil washes down and clogs your reservoir with mud. And skip the mulch on top, and you will lose a good chunk of your wicked water straight back into the air through evaporation. Every one of these is fixable though, so let's fix them. If you are finding this useful, do me a quick favor and hit subscribe. I break down water-wise growing like this every single week, and I would love to keep helping you grow more food with less water. Now let's sort out your bed. Here is how to decide what yours actually needs, and it comes down to one quick judgment call. If your soil is deeper than about 30 to 40 centimeters, or your reservoir is packed with 20 millimeter scoria or gravel, then I am sorry, but you are looking at a rebuild. Those are structural problems, and no amount of tinkering fixes water that physically cannot climb. But here is the good news. You can repurpose that old scoria somewhere else in the garden, so none of it goes to waste. But if your soil depth is fine and your media wick's okay, and you are only missing an overflow or a layer of mulch, then you are in luck. That is a cheap, quick retrofit. Add an overflow at reservoir height. Pile on a good thick mulch. Loosen up your mix if it has gone hard and compacted. You might just save the whole bed in an afternoon. I have rescued more than one sad-looking bed exactly like that, and it always feels like a little win. Now, let me walk you through the right way to build one from scratch, because once you have seen it, you will never get it wrong again. And honestly, anyone can build this. Start with a level base, because if the bed tilts, all your water pools to one side. Lay your waterproof liner, bring it right up the sides near the top, and protect it from anything sharp. Then fill your reservoir with that fine wicking media, the crusher dust or sand, about 150 millimeters deep. You do not need any more than that. The same Australian research found a 150 millimeter reservoir works just as well as a 300 millimeter one. A deeper tank just stores extra water that never wicks up anyway. Stand a vertical fill pipe down into that reservoir so you can top it up easily, and pop a cap or a tile on top to stop mosquitoes from breeding in there. Set your overflow at the top of the reservoir, right at that soil to water line, roughly 30 centimeters down from the surface. Lay your separation fabric over the media. Then add your friable, compost-rich soil on top, about 300 millimeters and no deeper. And make that mix richer in compost than a normal raised bed, roughly half good compost and half quality soil. A wicking bed lives or dies on that continuous, open, fine-poured structure, because that is exactly what carries water up by capillary action. Heavy clay or dusty old garden dirt will choke it, so keep it light and friable. Plant it out, and finish with 5 to 10 centimeters of mulch. Just 5 centimeters of mulch cuts surface evaporation by around 40%, so that top layer is doing real work for you, not just looking pretty. One last tip, and this one saves so much grief. Before you ever add the soil, fill the reservoir and leave it overnight. If the water level has dropped by morning, you have a leak, and it is 100 times easier to fix now than after the bed is full of dirt and plants. A well-built bed like this can go 3 to 6 weeks between top-ups, depending on the season. That is the dream we are after. So before you go, let me save you one more heartbreak. Wicking beds are not for every plant. They are brilliant for shallow-rooted, thirsty growers. Lettuce and leafy greens, kale, basil, parsley, celery, strawberries, and yes, tomatoes and cucumbers absolutely love them because most vegetables keep around 80% of their roots in the top 30 centimeters of soil anyway. That's exactly why a shallow wicking bed suits them so perfectly. But please do not plant trees, shrubs, or deep woody perennials in one. Their roots reach the reservoir and either drown or rot. Asparagus crowns sit too wet and rot away. Succulents and Mediterranean dry lovers like rosemary hate the constant moisture. And blueberries will not work because you cannot give them their own acidic pocket of soil in a shared tank. One more thing, and then I will let you get back out to the garden. Over time, salts wick up with the water and concentrate right at the surface, exactly where your seedlings sit. So once a year, give the bed a good flush from the top with fresh water to wash those salts down and away. Do it more often if you are using bore water or gray water, and less often if you get plenty of rain to rinse the bed for you. And that's it. Remember where we started? That full reservoir with the dying plants sitting right on top of it? Now you know exactly why it happens, how to test for it in 10 seconds, and how to build a bed that actually delivers water to the roots that need it. So go check your own bed today. Dig down those 10 centimeters and see what you find. If this helped you out, subscribe and stick around, because we are growing more food with less water, one bed at a time. I'll see you in the next one.